Maïga!
Beauté!
Hello!
Bonjour! Welcome to
Qu'est-ce qu'on mange à midi?
And in English we said, what do we eat at lunch? It's a podcast where we discuss and we share our life experience as an immigrant in New Brunswick. We can talk about student life or worker life, entrepreneur's life, because we believe that what the decision that we make today has an impact on what we're going to have at lunch tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. And we are so grateful. It's the end of the year. And guys, we can't believe that it's almost a year since the podcast started. And we are just so grateful, so much gratitude in our hearts towards you guys, our family, the community that has been supporting us since episode 1. Please give a shout out to yourself in the comment. We are just so grateful. And we send our greeting to Shadra and Marie-Laure. They're not with us today, but don't worry, they are here. We know they are here somewhere. So this is gonna be the last episode of the year.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we're not go. No, don't worry, guys. Not of the podcast, just of the year. And that was the fun part. No, it's gonna be the last episode of the year, and we wanted to end up on a good note that will both help us to end the year and start reflecting on this past year, but also planning for the new year. So we're gonna do a special episode with a guest that is not gonna be with us here where we record, but she's gonna be with us online. So we're just gonna make a little switch in a few minutes. We're gonna talk about financial education, financial management, and as you probably will see, the title of the episode of this podcast is Financial 101 for newcomers. So definitely make sure you're well seated, take a block note, take your pen, because this is truly a masterclass. We're gonna have it's almost 1 hour with Ida Azefor. She's a financial accountant. She's a coach for newcomers in financial education, but also she works with entrepreneurs. But don't worry, she's going to present herself in a few minutes. But if you're new here, welcome to the community. Please subscribe. Please, just put hashtag community in the comment, and you can follow us on all our social media base. We are on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and all the audio listening platform. Also, if you want to listen just to the audio of this video, Qu'est-ce, qu'On mange à midi, you can just copy paste the title that's here. And yeah, thanks for the support. Thanks for being on this page. Thanks for taking this journey with us. And let's go for this last episode of the year. Hello, welcome Ida. It's such a privilege to be with you today, and we are just so grateful, Manla, to have you on the podcast today. So with no further ado, we're just gonna let yourself introduce yourself. Please tell us who you are, what you do, and before we dig deeper into why we are here today.
All right. Thank you guys for having me today. My name is Ida, the Francophone say Ida. I'm based in Montreal, but I was born and raised in Cameroon, and I moved here in 2010. And what I do is accounting, taxes, bookkeeping, that kind of thing. I have my own company where I serve heart-based, heart-centered entrepreneurs to take care of their accounting and taxes. And the other thing that I'm passionate about doing, which is a project of mine, is educating people on financial education, because I find that one thing I always say is whoever controls your money controls your life. So if you want to control your life, you got to learn to control your money. So financial education is something I do, and accounting and taxes is another thing I do. And I do podcasting too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thanks so much. And she just shared a bit. That's really a bit about Ida, but don't worry, we will get to know her better. So we want to have Ida today. So if I switch to French and English,
That's fine. You can switch.
you know what we are talking about. So we want to have her today for this last episode of the year to discuss financial education. financial literacy, and it's really something she's passionate about. So we are really really happy that she's gonna share all the knowledge and the tips for us today. So we just want to start with you quickly about like what brought you to Canada. Just we're gonna just start from that journey, and what kind of led you to be passionate about financial education and everything about that.
There's a short version and the long version. So,
So
Okay, let me grab some water.
what brought me to Canada? At a time when Canada was looking for skilled workers to come and be part of the Canadian fabric, I chose to apply to the Quebec Selected Skilled Worker Program. I was already working in Cameroon as an accountant in a multinational liquefied petroleum gas company. And the headquarters is in Denmark, but I was one of the accountants at the head office in Douala. And so when Canada was like, oh, when my sister told me there is a Quebec program to bring skilled workers here, I said, why not? Number one, because I'm the last child from a family of seven. I wanted to spread my wings. You know, when you're in, it's like you don't have a voice, so you want to have your voice. And so I saw this as an opportunity for me to go and establish my independence in a new country away from everybody. And I knew no.
hi.
Wow.
So that's what started me on the journey to coming over to Canada. The only way I was going to move was in a way that was comfortable, in a way that made sense, because I wasn't running away from anything from back home. I just wanted to explore the world. And so I came as that. And I landed here in Montreal. I was fortunate to have a very good friend of my sister host me for the time being and all of that. And then now brings me to my story of financial education. When I got here, of course, when you come here, everybody talks about you need to build a credit score.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that they tell you. And so without even knowing what is a credit score, you know nothing about that. You do what everybody tells you to do. So in landing here, I had a lot of money with me. Relatively, I had a lot of money. So I opened my bank account. When I went there, they said, you're going to need a credit card in order to start establishing your credit score. And they wouldn't give me a normal credit card. They said they would give me a secured credit card. I was like, okay, what does it take? Oh, put $1,000 down and we'll give you $1,000 card. I was like, okay, no problem. Take the money. So I put $1,000 down. They gave me $1,000 credit card in order to start building a credit score. And so, but that was the extent of the education I received from the bank in terms of what do you need to do? Take the card, use it to pay your bills, make sure you make your minimum payment, and that's it. That's all. And nobody quite tells you what to do and what not to do, except for the same history of build a credit score. And so, um, for the first whole year when they were holding on to my $1,000, I was using the card very well, making sure that my $1,000 is always there. And then 1 year down the road, when they released the funds, like, oh, now I've quote unquote graduated. I don't need a secured credit card anymore. Now I'm a big girl. So, and and by this time, I created enough of a credit history for them to now start saying, we want to increase your limit. And that's where the question started. I would ask the people around me, what does it mean? The bank is calling me, or the bank is putting this thing in my online profile that I'm eligible for a credit increase. What does it mean? And most people would say, oh, if they're extending an offer to you, just accept it. It just means that you're credit worthy. Accept the offer. You never know when you're going to need the money. Treat it as your emergency fund.
That's the thing.
That's
I like
we
it.
all
I
heard
like
that.
it.
Actually, that's so true.
Yeah. So that coupled with the fact that nobody has taught you to actually be paying off the credit. I had my motivation for paying off everything at the time. I wanted to make sure I get my $1,000 back. But after that, I didn't have a motivation to be paying anything. And all they had said was pay your minimum payment. And so that's how it started snowballing from that until like the time when I got myself into like a huge amount of debt and no decisions. And this is a short version. You couldn't quite make decisions without thinking about, will I have enough to make my minimum payment this month? Will I have enough to do XYZ? You're constantly in the thought of minimum payment, or being able to have the funds to make those payments. And so at one point I just said to myself, between my husband and I, we said, you know what, enough is enough. Like, what is this? We make a lot of money. why do we have to live like why are we constantly stressed out about money? And this is a hole you've dug yourself into, not being able to pay off your bills or pay off your credit card like you should, just by following the non-advice of people who knew nothing they're talking about. And so um yeah, so it's really inspired by my own journey, and I continue to see people struggle with the same thing, and so I want to educate people on what to do and what not to do.
Yeah, but actually, I find it really interesting, as you mentioned, as you said, a lot of things that you're saying is the part of the thing that we actually went through ourselves. So it's really interesting, and that's why lead me to a question to ask actually how to better, like at the beginning, how to better understand how does it works. Like, do you have like any sources or things that we should do from the beginning to understand that part?
Yeah, so there is a lot of information out there, right? And that's the good thing and the bad thing, because there is information. It's kind of hard to tell what is the right information and what's the wrong information, and that's why I'm kind of really passionate about putting out this information out there, inspired by my own story and inspired by the actual journey of immigrants. Because whatever people in general say, it doesn't necessarily apply to you, because your story is different, your journey is different, your reality is different. And so what I would advise anybody who's moving into North America and is, yes, you have to build a credit score, because that's how the system works, right? At one point, thinking down into the future, at one point you would want to buy a car, at one point you would probably want to buy a house, and all of those things, unless you have the cash to go and pay for it, all of those things operate on a credit system, on a credit score. And so yes, it's actually valid that you should be building a credit score, but now with that in mind, how should you go about building it? That's the problem that people don't know how to solve.
Yeah, definitely. I think that leads to the question about like just the understanding of the financial system in Canada, because often we come from totally different financial system. And speaking from like from our experience as young adult coming for international study, and it's a different word, and sometimes it's like the first time you actually manage your own money, and you can be for the first time managing a lot of money just like all at once like that. And if you're not careful, or if you didn't just basically receive the financial education, you're gonna make like a lot of mistake. So I want to talk about something that you're really passionate about, and you talk a lot about it on your YouTube channel. Don't worry, guys. We're gonna ask Ida at the end for all the details. She's gonna share it. Don't worry, you will know where to find her. But just, you talk a lot about this concept of the immigrant cycle. What is it, and like how do you define it, and how can, yeah, we're just gonna start there. What is the immigrant cycle? Yeah.
Okay, the immigrant cycle, that's a good one. Okay. And some people are going to get offended by this, because that's the reality. Here is the journey of most people. When you land in a new country, North America, let's say Canada precisely, when you land here, somebody receives you. That family would usually orientate you on what to do based on their own circumstances, based on what they're doing. And so for the vast majority of people, the family that receives you, or the thing that the family does, ends up being the same thing that you do, unless you have a strong mind of your own. But for most people, when you come in, when I came in here with my accounting background, I already knew that I did not want to do nursing, because I can't stand the sight of blood. So when I came and people would say, go do nursing, in my mind, it's like, no, I'm not doing nursing. But if I didn't have that conviction, I would go into the same direction that everybody else is going. Okay, immigrant cycle. When you land here, that family orientates you on what it is you should do. Most often, even when you're coming in as a professional, you don't have the Canadian experience that would allow you to go into the profession that you want to go into. And so you would go into a survival job. For most people, that survival job is at the call center, which for most people is a step up from what they were doing. But for me, it was a step down, because I was already an accountant in a multinational firm. And so you come from that family orientates you. Okay, you can't find the job, you get into a survival job. By the time you're in this survival job, you've taken a credit card because they've told you to start to build your credit score, but nobody taught you what to do. if you don't know how to handle yourself, you start to pile up the amount of debt that you have on it because you need to pay bills, you need to take care of yourself. The bills just like you just start spending the money. Plus, you're now in bush, right? You're now a bush faller. So it's kind of like you have to start sending something back home. So your finances just start to like before you know it, you're in debt before you know it. You ask people like, how did you get in there? People will really have to reflect to figure out what really happened that got them into that situation. But it's just the everyday things of life. Okay. So there's that coming in, that orientation. Now you're already in a debt situation, but you're in the survival job. And now you decide like, you know what, this job that I'm at, I don't like it. For me, it's degrading. For me, for some people, it's a step up. So,
Yeah,
Yeah,
depend on
depending on
yeah.
people. Yeah.
okay. Now, most people will then say, I probably have to go back to school in order to get a better job. You have your credit card loans. You live in that job that you're probably going to add a student loan on top of it. You have your credit card, you have your student loans. And because you have a less of an income coming in right now, that too starts to accumulate onto how much it is that you actually have as your debt. Fast forward, you graduate from school, hopefully. Now you've graduated and hopefully it's more positive and you get a better job. That better job allows you to have a bigger pay. And now you're excited because you're now making much more money than you ever thought you could possibly make. Instead of people to stop at this time to think and say, how can I get myself financially okay? What do people do at that time?
They start spending
Spending
more.
more.
Yes, exactly right. So you go from that one thing to the next without bringing yourself back to the level. You're already in a hole. You've added your student loans to it. And now you go and add a car to it because hopefully by now you've also been at least paying your minimum payments that you've built up enough of a credit score that you can go and sign a loan. And so when you sign the loan, you've added to it your student loans, your credit cards, your car. And time is passing by. Now, eventually, you decide it's time to start a family, be it pressures from home, be it pressures from society. It's like, oh, now it's time to start a family. You go, you start a family, and your apartment now is probably too small for you. And so, what do you add to that? You add a house.
It's time to level up.
Level up.
It's time to level up, right? So, you add a house. You add a house to those debts that you already have. Your credit cards are not paid off. Your student loan is still being paid off. Your car loan is there. You've added a mortgage to it. And by that time, you're probably close to your 40s. And you just took with it,
Let's
and you
not
just,
forget interest.
yes, and you just took a 25-year mortgage. Now, let's say you're at that place and you pay it off without going to refinance and pull out money from it to do whatever thing you want to do. If you just keep paying it as you're supposed to, 25 years from the time you're 40, it's your 65, time for retirement. Right. And okay, in your 40s, you started having your kids. Maybe you started having earlier or like around the time of mortgage, kids and all of that. Your children grow up seeing you living this way of life without networking, without like being willing to go out of your comfort zone. They just see that. And most often that's what the kids copy as well. By the time they get to whatever age, now they want to go and start getting their own entry level job at something so they can start making some, you know, so that is a cycle which, without paying attention to it, a lot of immigrants are in that cycle. That's an immigrant cycle, which I said is probably going to offend some people. But the purpose of this is not to offend anybody. It's to create that awareness. So you look at it and say, am I really trapped in this cycle? And where should I be? What can I do to get myself out of that cycle so that I could actually create a life for myself?
Yep.
No, definitely, and I love that because the thing that you mentioned, it's not to offend people, but it's to really like to raise that awareness because for people that follow us on the channel here, the tagline is because the decision we take today is gonna affect what we're gonna have at lunch tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's just that thing because sometimes we take decision, we decide of things today, not thinking ahead of the consequences of those decisions on not just our life tomorrow, but even our people, like people that follow us, like idol, sisters or brothers or like kids, because whether or not we want to admit it, we have influence on people, people around us that look at us as model. Even like sometimes you don't realize it, but people that saw you like at a young age or your kids, etc., they look at you as a model. So sometimes what you're gonna do they're gonna copy the exact same thing, and kind of you're gonna be responsible of it in a certain way. So it's not just to be like, work around with a burden, like, I'm taking the responsibility for everyone. But I think it's good to be mindful of that, and really like kind of balance the decision that we make, especially with our finances, because as you mentioned, we're gonna start family and everything, and I don't want to be, the mom that my kids will look at and be like, "Oh, I did it because of you." I'm like, "Oh, my friends, I'm gonna." No, definitely. Like my parents, for example, they always raise us with this mindset that kids, we need to go further than where our parents were, and where they are, the bar is already up. So I'm like, my kids, the bar is gonna be up. So you better start.
I better start getting ready
So,
before they're even born.
exactly. But I think it's also good to be mindful of that, and kind of build a system where you can the children, the kids can thrive, and kind of do something good that will also inspire other people.
Yeah, that's exactly. And actually, I find it interesting, especially like around me, there is, since I work at university, there is a lot of students around me and people who graduate at the same time. And especially the circle that you said, first of all, like, okay, I'm earning more money now, so I can go and spend more. But it's like, no, it's not supposed to be like that. You're not supposed. I was talking with one of my friends, and he was like, you're supposed to be like to live under, not because you have a bigger salary. It means like you can spend more, but it's just like you said, to keep yourself out of a hole. If you have your credit card, it will help you like to get back to your to a good financial situation. So that's that's really interesting. So that leads me to the other question is actually, what are the mistakes actually that you should look at with to make sure to avoid when it comes to financial management?
So the first thing is pay yourself first. And
That's important.
Pay yourself.
People, just a minute. Yeah, if you arrive here, put that in the comments, please.
But how much should I pay myself? 24, 20 hour, 25 an hour?
it's not per hour. You're paying yourself according to, it's a percentage, right? So the minimum you should be paying yourself is 15% of whatever you make. So let me just use some round numbers. Let's say you make $10,000. At least 1,500 of that money should be should be paying yourself. And paying yourself is not that take the money and go squander it on yourself. It's to take that money and invest it in something. So what most people do is they spend, and then they want to see what is left at the end of the month that I can go and save. But the point is, if I give you money right now, a use is going to come up for it. You're going to find something to do with the money.
Always.
There is
More money, more problems.
Yeah, exactly. And you cannot solve all the problems. You cannot solve every single problem. And one thing that, like, and I'm even going to go into this, but the first mistake is people not paying themselves. People say, I'm going to save at the end of the month or at the end of, like, it's the last item on your budget. It's supposed to be the first item on your budget. You decide how much it is. And there's a whole long process to this. You can work from the future and come backward and like what it is you need in the future. And then you work back how much you should be saving now. But the basic for everybody doing right now, just pick whatever. Let's say you make $1,000. 150 should go into something that you're not touching. It's for your future self. And then you cut your spending to, like, you keep your spending. Your fixed cost should not be more than 50% of your income.
That's a good rule that I know. Yeah.
That means for anybody listening, think about how much you pay on your rent on a monthly basis. If you take home what, $5,000, your rent should not be more than what? My math is escaping me now. But it should not be more than 25% of your take home pay. And that's one area where a lot of people spend on.
Yeah. That's the thing.
And I'm not being ignorant to the fact that, or I'm not ignoring the fact that housing is expensive right now. Yes, it is. But you can figure it out. There are ways. You have to be willing to do it, and then you can figure it out. But for you to be able to even want to do that, it's about having that awareness, like, I'm in a hole, man. This is my situation. I want to fix it, and then you will go ahead and fix it. But most people live in oblivion. It's like, I don't care. Like, you do whatever you want to do, because after everything, it's you working the money, it's you making it. Yes, you are. But when you don't create that awareness for yourself to know where are you going, what's your actual situation, and what are the actions that you can start taking today to create that future that you want for yourself, and also creating the present that you want for yourself. If you don't do that, then you're living in denial. And a lot of people are doing that.
Yeah, no, I want even to dig deeper into that, because I think one mistake that's also related to that thing is kind of the appearance. So especially, sometimes you mentioned it earlier, we live like, we left our countries and everything, and sometimes there's that thing where people want to prove. I don't
Yeah,
like who
true.
even said it, like
Who
it's a thing.
started that?
I don't know, but it's like want to prove, like not just like to people in the country, but even here
here,
sometimes,
yeah.
because sometimes you see people like, going into like taking house or taking apartment or taking cars just because
Look
they want
nice.
people, like it's just the appearance.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna take my example for it. Like, I've graduated for 3 years now, and every time I meet someone new and they're like, oh, you're working, but why don't you have a car? I'm like it's like people in their mind,
Yeah.
you need to have a car if you're working. I'm like, a car is a passive, right?
Yeah.
And I have that discussion with many people every time. Like, you actually know that's a passive. Like,
Yeah.
right now for me, it's not a good investment. One day maybe, but always, that question will come to people's mind. Like, you work, but why don't you have a car? Like, you're supposed to live a life. Like, if you actually earn like good money, if you actually have a good job, why
Yeah.
don't you have a car? I'm like,
Yeah, and that speaks to the mindset. It speaks to a mindset is that a lot of people ignore, and you really have to work on it. Like, for me, let me tell you something. When I was trying to get out of debt, I literally told my husband, like, we had just bought a car, and we signed the car without me actually paying attention to how much we were signing for that car. And so when we actually did the exercise of looking at creating that awareness for ourselves, and I realized that I had signed a $45,000 car, I told my husband, you see, right? People listening in here have signed more than that, and they don't know that that's what they signed. I literally told my husband, I was like, you know what? I don't care about this car. I want to give it back. And I'm okay with driving the smallest possible car out there, a beat up car. I'm okay with that. We finally didn't go back to give the car, because we did that exercise, and we're like, anything that we cannot pay off within 2 years is going to go. And we ended up paying everything off that needed to be paid off. We paid it all off within the 2 year period. But we had to come to that place of creating that, not caring what people say about you, because are you living your life for them, or are you living your life for you? If you're living your life for them, then yes, you're going to make all of those decisions that are going to negatively affect you. But if you've created that awareness for yourself, and you know why you do the things you do, just like you, people say buy a car, and you're like, what for? You have the awareness for yourself. You know why you're doing certain things. You're not doing it for the appearances, and you're comfortable in the decisions that you're making. For me, I'm very comfortable in my decisions, but it wasn't always that way. It had to come to the point where I know why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I don't care what anybody says about it, because for me, the reason is so much deeper to me than what any person says. So if you're listening to this and you're still affected by what people say to you, then you have a huge challenge. You have a huge exercise to do. You don't know yourself. And so you value yourself based on what people say about you. And that's an empty life.
That's true, actually. And at the end of the day, like, imagine, like, for the same, I had the same issue about the car, like, since I graduated in 2019, people were like, why don't you have a car? So I was really considering to get the car. And I was like, okay, fortunately, I did not get it because I was just like, the situation it was going to create, that's why you have to think, like, the me of tomorrow, like, how am I going to handle it? Because at the end of the day, it was an extra thing that I had to pay. I gathered some information with people who already have cars, how much they pay monthly, and I was just like, no, I don't need that right now. I can take the bus. I can still, like, I don't, because I know for some people it's really important, like it's a necessity for them.
Yeah.
Like when you are like in some rural place that is far away or something like that, that's different. But in my case, I was really close to work, close to all my things, so I didn't need that actually.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. It comes down to creating that awareness. So there's no right or wrong answer. Should you get a car? Should you not get a car? What's your situation? Like for me, honestly, when I got my first car, if I'm looking at this back and I'm being honest to myself, I didn't need to get the car when I did. Because I was living in Montreal. I was living in Lachine. Lachine, I don't know if you guys know
La
Yeah.
Chine.
Montreal. Lachine is the name of the neighborhood.
It's near Boulevard La Chine, right?
Yeah, I don't Boulevard Lachine. It's close to La Salle.
There's a
It's
metro. There's a metro.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a metro. There's a metro in LaSalle. As of the time, there was no metro in Lachine. I don't think there is right now. Like, oh my God, no, there's no metro in Lachine. But the bus system in Montreal is so good
True.
that where I was living, there were buses passing literally in the morning, literally every 10-15 minutes, there was a bus passing there. And then later on in the day, there's no hour that the bus is not passing. So I didn't need to get one. But I got one because number one, I had the money sitting in my account. Number two, I wanted to have a car. And so I got it. And that one I paid for it cash. So that didn't get me into debt.
Wow.
But once I had that habit of now having a car, once I had not had it, once I had gotten used to having a car, because take note, right? I came from Cameroon wanting to establish my independence. When I was in Cameroon, I wanted to buy a car and it was frowned upon. So when I came here, I think, and this is all looking back. Looking back, I recognize that the reason I got that car was because I could, and nobody could say no to me this time, and I'll go and buy it. Right. So, but that then created a ripple effect going into the future of like, when that car stopped working, it started giving a lot of trouble. It wasn't working anymore. I knew it was time to sell the car, but I'd gotten so used to having one that I couldn't go back to not having one. Right. And so now when I went to get the next car, I was willing to pay, I was willing to only get a car that I could afford to pay for fully. And the dealership convinced me to sign a car and take a car loan.
They're good. They're good.
Really?
Good. They're good. They're good, right? I had a sedan. I had a little car. It was a little Nissan, not a Nissan, it was a little Volkswagen that I had. And it was a really, really good, small, nice car. And then when I sold it, I just wanted to get another car that was not going to take me to the mechanics as often as that. And when I went to this dealership, I left that place with an SUV. And I leveled up, and that was not the end of it. So, and I'm sharing this story because people are going to relate to this. This is what people do. And that was not the $45,000 car. That was my second car, which I ended up having a little bit of a car note on it. And then when that car, um, I think when the car note on that, when I finished paying it off, and the dealerships keep a tab on you. They know that your loan is going to be up in this amount of time. And because of that sentimental attachment that you've created with like, how do I put it? You just finished paying off this one. Now it's probably looking old in your eyes and you don't have a car payment anymore. And so we're going to entice you with a new one. When I wasn't aware, I fell for that. So my second car, once it got paid off, I got this call to like, oh, come on, check out the new car, blah, 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 blah. I went in and I checked out the car, and that's the time I came out with a bigger car note, a brand new car I walked out with that one. And that one, so I had payments on it. And then and the reason I walked out with that other one was because, okay, and that, guys, listen, when you go to sign a car loan, first of all, I prefer you pay for it cash. But if you have to sign a car loan, pay attention to the fact that sometimes it is spread over a 5-year period and sometimes it is spread over a 7-year period. A brand new car is spread over a 7-year period and an older car is spread over a 5-year period. When it's spread over 7 years, the amount you're paying on a monthly basis seems like it's low, and so you don't pay attention to how much you're actually signing for the car. That's how they get you.
This no, let's pause it now. Because people, you need to realize, first of
Yeah.
all, if you arrive here and you're not a subscriber, I don't know why we're continuing to talk to you. But please subscribe, like, and comment, because
Always.
I know for myself, and I think probably Amanda too, we are learning new things here. And so you
definitely,
too, you're
definitely.
probably learning something new. So please, let's just say thank you, Ida, in the comment, because she deserves it.
Yeah.
Please,
yeah,
friend,
yeah.
thank you very much.
She's giving good
Yeah,
information here.
Continue.
Pépite.
Let's go.
Okay. So that first car that I after my Nissan, no, after the first car, when I left out with the second one, it was an older car. And so it was spread over a 5-year period. And when it started giving me a little bit of trouble and the dealership called and everything, I went in and they offered me a brand new car this time. The monthly payment was just like $20 higher $20 higher than what I was paying before. And I was like, oh, it's just $20. That's okay. Oh, but that was 7 years of my life I was signing away.
$20
That's a trap.
per
That's
12
the trap.
per 7.
Yeah, that's a great trap. Yeah.
And so I signed it and I took out that car. But that was not my stupidest mistake. The stupidest one, that was the one after that, the $45,000 car. Where they now, my husband and I, we literally went into a dealership for this one. And the reason for that was something so silly. We're going to have our third kid. And the car seats, because our kids were kind of almost around the same age. My daughter is 10 years old now. My son is 8. And then the little one is 5. So when the little one was being born, we tried to fit the car seats in the car and they couldn't quite fit properly because we needed 3 seats in a row. But that's a temporary problem. But to us, it was a problem. And so when we went into the dealership, that's when we came out with this much bigger car that was like on top of what we were paying before. Now this is a newer car spread again over another 7 years. They rolled over the balance from the previous car into the new car. And then they apply, oh, we're going to give you a little discount, this and that. They're going to throw in this bells and jingles, bells and whistles. They throw in all of those things there to make you get emotional about the decision that you're making. And so that's how we walked out with it. But the day my eyes opened was the day when we're looking at our stuff. I came across information that to me was very transformational. And I said, you know what? We make a lot of money to be feeling like we're living paycheck to paycheck. We make a lot of money to be juggling, minimum payments. It doesn't make sense. Like something is not working. And so we literally took out our spreadsheet, a debt snowball. If your audience wants that, I could send them to them. We took out the debt snowball. We put it out. We said, this is how much debt we have. This is the interest rate on each and every single one of those debt. And this is how much we pay for it. And it shows you, if you continue to pay X amount on a monthly basis, this is how many years it's going to take for you to be in that situation. And I said, I don't want that. That's not the life. I left a great life in Cameroon. That's not what I came here for. I said, something's got to change. But only you can make that decision for yourself.
Totally. Yeah.
And so when I told my husband, I said, I'm okay with driving a beat up car. Let's take this car back to the dealership. Right. And when you if you're in that situation and you're trying to take your car back, number one, pay attention. They're not going to pay you the amount of money that you paid for the car. Once you drive the car out of a dealership, it's depreciated. The value is gone.
That's one thing people don't consider.
That's important to know, actually.
Me and the car, we don't really vibe right now because I'm thinking about all of that. I'm like,
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, if you need it, yeah. But if you don't need it and you just want it because you want to drive a big car, you want to, why? So I had created that emotional disconnect for me already, and I said, I'm okay with not having it. And so when I called them to say, I bought this car for 45, I owe 39 on it. I want to bring it back to you guys. How much are you going to pay me for it? 25. On a car that I owe them 39 that I just bought for 45. So that means if I took the car back to them, I would still owe on the car and I'm going to continue paying for it. And that put the fire in me. Said, no, I'm going to get out of this debt in this amount of time. And I'm not looking back. And so since it's been paid, they call me like every 2 months. You know what they're calling to say? I'm like, you got the wrong
Come and
girl
check
this
out
time.
new cars.
Yeah, they say, oh, there are so many people looking for your mark of car. It's got a high resale value right now. Just come in and let's see what we want to offer you. And you can take a newer one and it's gonna be the same payment you're having. I'm like, madam, did you check your files? Do you see that that car is paid off? Do you see I don't have a loan on the car? Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm not about to go sign a new loan. Thank you. And I said, take my number off your list. And they keep calling. I'm like, but people still fall for it because you're stressed out about life on a daily basis, right? You're looking for something that's gonna give you a little bit of excitement. And so when they call, you're like, oh, a new car is gonna make me happy, and you go sign it. But what's the real problem? You are dissatisfied about something in your life. That's the problem that needs to be solved. You don't need a new car. And that applies to every single area of your finances. It comes down to mindset.
No, I love it. I love it.
Mindset. Yeah.
Mindset is definitely life, and
Definitely.
definitely like I did marketing, and this one course that we did was how they call it, attitude of the consumer. That course changed my whole life. Because no, they were explaining to us how people actually make sure that when you see something you want to buy, like all the emotional behind. And I was like, ouch, people study things to make you buy things, like the things that people don't realize how much time people invest. They just like, it's a whole science. It's a whole like, no, it's really really amazing when you think about when I said, I was like you start considering everything, like even like stuff from online, for example, sometimes easy, like people will, you follow a lot of like clothing store on your Instagram or Facebook, and you wonder
Cell
why
phones.
and you
Cell
want, and the
phones.
apps, I don't know,
Yeah,
they
like-
even have apps, I didn't know that, but and you wonder why every week, every month, every week you're buying clothes, but you're like, I don't have money, but you're still buying because like it's in your face every day.
Yeah.
So it's gonna enter your mind, and when it's there, you're gonna want, like, it's all start in the mind, and after that you're gonna put like the action. So definitely, like, I think people, like, it's really, please, we just like begging you, like, please. No.
There's a whole psychology to it. Let me tell you something that blew my mind when I learned about it. Um, the store cards, not the credit card, just the store card, like a membership card. We're gonna give you points. Yes, those cards, they use that to track your spending habit in a way. For example, you're going into the store now. Okay, you're soon gonna be a mom. When you go into a store and you're buying what, diapers right now, or you're buying a baby's crib, and they calculate if somebody is buying a baby's crib right now, it means 5 years. In 5 years, they should probably be, no, in 3 years, they're probably going to be thinking about buying bikes. They're probably going to be thinking about buying a house. They're probably going to be thinking. So when you sit and you receive promotional things in your mailbox, it's not by accident. It's not everybody was getting those same promotional things in the mailbox. Yes, exactly. Whatever you bought and you swiped a credit card or a stock, especially the store cards, those store cards that you swipe, they are tracking and projecting what it is that you would possibly want to buy in the future. So even when you're not thinking that I want to buy this thing, it comes to them like, huh, how do they know? I think I would like this one now. It's just enticing you to buy. Is it good or bad? It's not bad. It's actually, well, depends on you. Is it good or bad? It's good because it would help you to know where to buy those things. It's probably going to give you an offer. But it's bad because if you're on autopilot and you don't have control over yourself, you don't have control over what you actually want to do, then you start to become this emotional spender. And then you start to wonder, like, why don't I ever have money? Well, because you've never taken the time to understand yourself.
Yeah, understand yourself.
No. I think that's definitely key, and it's something, yeah, kind of. And we're coming to the end here, but one of the question, before we go to the last one, that he has, just like, I know you also talk like more and give like advices to entrepreneurs. So just want you to give little tips. She's not gonna go deeper if you want. She mentioned at the beginning she has a company,
Really
so
true.
don't worry. You can go and contact Ida. Pay her money. It's gonna help you.
It's worthy.
It's also good support. So yeah, just
Yeah.
if you can just share some tips based on your experience, yourself being an entrepreneur and also working with other entrepreneurs, like on financial management.
Oh, that's a big one, especially because not only finances, but accounting and taxes. So, which direction will be more useful to your audience?
It really depends. You're the entrepreneurs here, so we are really newbies in this sector. So I'm gonna trust you on that.
Yeah.
Wow, let's see. Okay, so I'm gonna break it into different segments. If you're thinking about starting a business, just start. It doesn't matter whether you're incorporated right now or not incorporated. You can't scale what you haven't created.
I don't wait. Let's say that again. Say that again.
Again.
You can't scale what you haven't created. And so the biggest advice to anybody who has an entrepreneurial mindset is just start. And you would see the example if anybody listening has used an iPhone. We're on the iPhone 15 right now. If they were waiting to perfect the iPhone, we would not have had anything. They gave out a version 3, that version 3 was whatever. It's a toy compared to what we're looking at right now. But if that version wasn't created, then they would have nothing to improve upon. So if you have an idea, just start. And then once you start making some amount of money, you want to make sure that you're looking at, well, number one, on the financial side, you have to pay taxes.
Yes, Canada.
Don't use all your money and think that it's yours. Well, a portion of it is yours, a portion of it is not yours. It's not yours.
It belongs to
Oh,
government.
oh, it wasn't profit. All my profit.
That's the biggest thing that I hear, especially the immigrant entrepreneurs that I speak to. That's the biggest thing that they struggle with. Either I didn't set aside any money for taxes. I didn't know that I had to pay taxes. And we're looking at their number one, they don't even separate their bank accounts. Like you're starting a business.
Thing. I heard it in a podcast. An entrepreneur was saying he was really insisting on that. Your
Separate.
business money is not your money.
No, that's really important. Actually, you see the money coming, and you'll be like, "Oh wow,
Yeah.
I'm getting rich." No,
But
it's
no.
not your.
It's not your money yet. It's not your money. If you're doing a product based business, all the money that comes in, you have to go back and buy up some more of the products that you need to sell, right? So there is that, but there's also taxes that you have to pay. If your income is already in the $30,000 range for business income, the revenue is not the profit, just like the billing for clients. Then you need to be thinking about doing sales taxes, registering for sales taxes. Those are things that come to people like a surprise. And also, it's not everybody who is required to do sales taxes. If you're a nurse and you're doing like travel nursing, for example, you have no business with sales taxes. And so I see people getting mixed up with the whole thing, with everything. So there's always a time for you to go out and do a consultation and say, okay, either like this is my situation, what do I do? But number one, don't wait too long, but also don't wait too long to go and do a consultation, but also don't wait too long for things to be perfect before you start.
Yeah.
So go ahead and create the product, go ahead and create the service, and have that conversation so you at least know what direction you're supposed to doing with things. Separate your bank accounts, have a separate bank account for your business and have a separate account for yourself. If it's incorporated, then the business account has to be in the business's name. But if it's just you, say for example, Esther, you decide that you want to start doing a service. Let's say there's a person who's listening and is doing I'm being drawn by your hair because it's doing the afro thing. So I'm going to like so there's somebody who is a hairdresser, for example, and you're doing the business in your basement, for example. It is a business, and you actually have tax deductions that you can deduct if you actually report the business as a business income.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of people just want to hide and just do their little thing by the side, and you think you're cheating somebody out. You're cheating yourself. Because the salary that you make from your work, you get to report that on your personal income taxes. If you have a hair business, not incorporated, you have a hair business, you're doing the salon thing in your basement, whatever money you're making from that, because you have a business operating at home, you're able to deduct a certain portion of your rent or your mortgage interest or your utilities, their house expenses you can deduct, plus all the things you're buying for that. Like those are deductions, those are normal deductions. But you get to deduct your expenses that you would pay anyway. You get to deduct some of your gas, some of your car expenses. There are things you get to deduct that also now, if, and I'm not saying people should go and create a loss, but if you actually have a loss, that offsets your income that you made from your job until you get to pay less taxes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something people are not mindful like, and when I discovered it, it was just like, it's amazing how you can actually pay less tax when you're an entrepreneur. For real, that
Yeah.
was something really amazing when I learned that, and it was just like, oof, this is a way to put it.
Yeah. I was really
No,
amazed.
for real. And it's, and like you say, sometimes people think that, you know, by not being legal or actually declaring things, they're actually making more money. But you could actually making more money by actually being legal and, you know, declaring your taxes and everything. Because for real, I think the Canadian tax system is, you know, a good one. So, but I think it's also coming from, it's not perfect. We know, don't worry.
We pay a lot of taxes. Truth be told, we do pay a lot of taxes in this country.
Term of like paying taxes on that side, that's a different conversation, definitely. But in terms of how it works, that's where I'm talking. Yeah, that's
Where you're
yeah.
going.
Don't worry. It's not, yeah. If I can pay less tax, yeah, totally sign me in.
Everyone
Sign me
really
in.
wants that.
But I think that's also go with the what we share. There also go with the system, the difference in the system. You know, most immigrants come in because, you know, in Africa,
It's
generally,
different.
you know, you can, there's an informal market, and it's common. Like nobody like bother about that. It's just
No.
normal. You know,
Yeah.
tomorrow you go to that corner of the street, you should just see someone that started
That
something
is-
there, and it's totally normal. Everybody's just gonna buy there, and nobody's gonna ask her where is the money is going. Is she paying tax? Like, she's not even paying for the corner where she is. So
Yeah, and when they see the person who was coming for, I think they call it patang. You see somebody calling for patang, you carry your things and run away. So
you just go, simple and basic life. So yeah, people. I think people, when you come with that mindset, it's kind of normal.
Yeah.
And especially if you're not confront in actually taking the time to learn about the system, you're just gonna go into that. But, and as you mentioned at the beginning, you know, if the people that surround you, you know those, you know, and especially in the immigrant community, sometimes, you know, I know that person. Oh, she do like the hairdresser thing, and she's not declaring money, so I can do that too. And then it just, the information goes like that. But, you know, it's
Yeah, as you mentioned, a lot of people think like it's better for them to just do it around the corner without everyone noticing. Like they're gonna keep all the money from themselves, so it's more interesting this way. But I've always wondered, actually. Imagine like if you are an hairdresser at home, and then suddenly you decided to go. Oh, I'm going to let the government know. Is there a way that the government can know that you were doing that already, and you can have like some consequences or things like that?
yeah, there are ways that they could. So sometimes I've come across something which is called a lifestyle audit, for example. And what they're doing is they're looking at your income, right? Because when you declare your taxes, it has to make sense. So somebody who lives in, let's say there's a high end area in Montreal, Westmount, for example. You live in Westmount and the cost of living there is this much. And the income that you're declaring every single year, even if you use all of your income for lifestyle, you can't pay for that lifestyle. They start to ask, like, how are you able to live in that place? Because they know houses in this postal code is X amount of dollars. this is how much property taxes, this is how much all of these things cost there. So they would do a guess, and they send you a letter to send proof of certain things.
Okay.
They have 7 years to go back and look at any taxes. So if anybody has filed taxes, we're in 2023. So 7 years going back, that's 2016. They can ask you things from 2016. If they see something today that raises a question like, oh, let's see what happened in 2016. So, but with all that said, they're not going after the small fish, they go after the big fish, because it takes resources as well to go and start digging into those things. So sometimes, God forbid, it could be somebody who calls and gives in a tip about someone. I've seen that happen in America all the time, where people, out of spite, they call and give a tip on someone doing something, and then they start looking into it. But most often it's just inconsistencies when they're looking at the tax system in the back end. It's number one, huge variations in your tax situation or your income situation, especially when there's a dip. Like if you were making 100K one year and the next year you're at 30, like what happened? There's that. The other thing is just like lifestyle audits that could trigger things like that. And sometimes they do that and nothing comes out of it. So I know of a situation where, when I was at the CPA firm in Montreal, I know of a situation where they did a lifestyle audit for a guy, and he lived in Westmount, this high end area, and the cost of living there shows that if you don't make about 70,000 a year, you can't live in that area. And the guy was barely showing like $20,000-$30,000 in his tax returns. And the audit came back and there was nothing to it, because he was living in his parents' basement. His parents weren't charging him any tax, any rent. So he was living there for free. He's an adult, but he was living there for free. He didn't have a car. He could drive his parents' cars when he needed to. And like, so all of that, like, oh, okay, now it makes sense.
Okay.
And when they look at those things, if they don't see the extra income that's supposed to show there, then they might look at it and say, okay, what about your debt situation? Is it the debt that was able to fund this lifestyle? And so they look at lots of different areas to make sense of it. So it's a stretch, but it's possible that they could find out if they wanted to.
Just to make sure we're not looking for tips for how you can, do things around, under the table, but it's more like to encourage people. That's why it's important to actually do things legally so that you have peace of mind too. So we really encourage.
Even on the plus side to that, right? Let's say you are a hairdresser and you're really good at doing it. Don't you want the world to know about your talent? Don't you want to expand? Don't you want to be the next, I don't know, the hairdresser of Kim Kardashian, for example? If you're that level of talent. But if you're hiding in your basement, then how do people get to know that you can do that? Like you're stopping yourself from creating the greatness that you could create in the world because you're trying to hide income.
That's the
That's true.
Yeah.
Actually, there is a lot of things that we
yeah.
learn.
Like no, this is a masterclass, so we're not gonna take enough of either time now.
As long as that we would like to stay.
Exactly. Now we give you like so much reason to go and contact her.
Yeah.
But just to end, there's just this question that we usually ask to our guests. It's like if we put the Ida that came, when you arrived in Canada like a few years back, and she was just like in front of you, what will be the advice that you will give her?
Oh, wow. Okay. I arrived here when I was 20. I arrived here when I was 24. I had a lot of fire in me when I arrived. And I think that got quenched because of some of the obstacles that I encountered. Trust yourself.
That's beautiful.
Trust yourself.
Yeah. Because the fire I have in me right now is the fire that I had when I came, but that got quenched at a certain point in time. So it's like that fire that you landed here with, the world is your oyster. Go and paint. You can do anything that you set your mind to do. You just believe in yourself and go do it.
Well, exactly.
Really.
Well, friends,
That's
I don't know
nice.
about you, but
Yeah.
that's a good way to end.
Yeah.
We're
I
just
think I
gonna
might have something.
look at people here. Oh,
No,
it's not my fault. I know. I
No,
tried.
I'm
I
just
tried.
doing a quick, because when she said trust yourself, I'm like, oh, that's interesting, because from the beginning till now, the advice, if we can summarize them a little bit, they'll be like, pay yourself, know yourself, and trust yourself.
Put that in the comments.
So that's pretty
Put that
much
in the comments.
that was the
Yeah.
final note for
Exactly.
me. And
Thank you,
subscribe
Amanda.
to our channel.
No,
And follow
yeah.
us.
No, we're just actually gonna take the time
Yeah.
and to kind of give you the opportunity either to share, where people can find you,
Yeah.
how they can contact you, and don't worry, we're also gonna put all the links that she's gonna mention in the description of this episode. But yeah, please share.
So thank you for that. I'm very active across social media. So if you're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Clubhouse, Discord, you find me on the same handle. You find me on the same handle at Ida Azefor, IDA AZEFOR. I'm currently updating my website, but if you go there, you can still reach me. It's Ida Azefor. So www.idaazefor.com. And on any social media platform that you find me, there's always a link in my bio. So that link would take you to any of the resources that I'm sharing. You can definitely, if there's something that I said today that you don't find there, I'm probably still working on it, and so you can have that. But I'm across social media platforms.
Well, thanks, Ida. This I will say it again. This was masterclass. I learned a lot, and I'm pretty sure everybody who's gonna listen is gonna learn a lot too. So, please don't forget that we're doing this podcast to really raise awareness about the decision we take today, because they're gonna affect what we're gonna eat at lunch tomorrow.
Yes.
So, thanks again, Ida. This was a pleasure. And what do we say for this last episode?
Bon appetit!